Hello and welcome back to Granted Gardens. My name is Melissa. Today is a very special day, the day that I look forward to all year long. I know I say that all the time, but this is a big one. Today we plant the 2022 garden. So 2 years ago, my fiance Tyler and I started this YouTube channel, and the idea was that we have a deep passion for growing our own food and gardening, and we wanted to make sure that we were sharing this with the world. If you're new to this channel, please like and subscribe, and feel free to go back and watch some of our older videos. Especially if you're new to gardening, this is a great resource for you. You can see how our garden started from just one raised garden bed into this absolute oasis that we call our homestead. Hopefully you'll be able to learn from some of our good moves and some of our mistakes as well, and follow us throughout our journey along the way. Today we are planting the 2022 garden, and right behind me you can see all of our plant starts. Every single one of these plant starts, minus a few that I think were purchased. I did buy some things from the store, but majority of what you see behind me has all been started from seed. We like to start our gardens from seed at home in our grow station in the basement. We have posted videos about that as well, so feel free to look back through those. The idea behind this is that it's a way for us to get really unique plants implemented here on our homestead that sometimes you can't buy from big box stores. Also, it kind of helps cut back on cost. A lot of these plants are very specific types of breeds that you would have to pay more money to get into your gardens. So by growing them from seed, we've saved money there. Also, it's one more way for us to just ensure that we have a very unique garden to what our needs are and what our wants are. So I invite you to follow me along today as we start the 2022 garden. Behind me here, you'll see our big garden. That's what I refer to here. This garden actually runs along the fence line of a part of our property, and this is really kind of where it all started. This bed that you see here is actually the very first bed that we ever had on our property from a gardening standpoint. This is actually made from an old swing set that my dad built me. When I first moved in here, I said I wanted a garden bed, and so he put this. It's about a 4x4 raised garden bed here on the property for me to start my journey. Every once in a while I like to throw up pictures on our Facebook page, so if you're not following us on Facebook, check us out, visit Granted Gardens on Facebook, and I throw up pictures of my very first garden bed. This was rough. It had like some tomatoes in it. I think it had like a pepper too. It was overgrown. It was not tended to. There was weeds growing in there that I thought were lettuce. Like, there was so much happening here. And I like to share that just because I think it's important for people to see that you have to start somewhere, and be gracious. Give yourself grace that you're able to start somewhere. Don't feel like you have to be perfect or that you have to have all of the things in order to start gardening. You don't. Find some scraps that you can put together a garden bed and just do it. So first task on the list today is I need to clear out these garden beds. Obviously you can see that I've got a lot of straw laid down over top of them. I like to do that at the end of the season every year, because the concept is that if you cover your beds, they tend to stay more nutrient rich. They keep a lot more bugs, good bugs in the soil that keeps the soil regenerated throughout the winter seasons. If you don't cover them, your soil is exposed to the elements and it tends to dry out. All of the good nutrients will leave, all the good bugs will leave, and it's just not a happy home, and it makes for a lot more work when you start your gardens in the spring, because you have to bring all of that back. I am gonna still add some compost. We started making our own compost last year in our woods, and so we've got a little bit left over. I have used it on some of the newer beds that we put in so far this year, but I am gonna add to that. But other than that, this soil is gonna be ready to go. And so once I start peeling back some of the straw, you're gonna see just how healthy this soil is. It's dark, it's rich, it's moist, and it's full of all the good bugs. Now this garden bed has some weeds coming up in it that I'm gonna have to pull, but it also does have some onions that came back. I guess, I don't know if we planted these at the end of the season or what, but I am gonna try and work around these onions and see if we can get anything decent from them. Other than that, I am going to pull weeds and such. This doesn't need to be here, but I just wanted to give you a look at the soil. So right here, as I pull it back, I don't know if you can see them, but we do have bugs. As I dig a little deeper, there's going to be a ton of worms in here as well. You can see all the ants and everything. So this is a healthy soil. I mean, you want these bugs in here to keep your soil moving throughout the winter and keep it healthy and thriving. And as you can see too, look at how rich it is. It's dark, it's moist, it's very light, so it's going to be easy for any of our plants to grow through. This is exactly what you want to see. Behind me is our compost pile that we started last fall. I'm gonna go ahead and take from this to apply and amend some of my garden beds. This isn't entirely broken down, so I'm not gonna use a ton of it, just enough to kind of spruce it up, lighten it up, and just throw some extra nutrients in. So I just did a nice little light layer over top of both of the garden beds. I'm not going to worry about mixing it in or anything. We are getting rain the next 2 days, so I'll let God do the work for me. I had it set on my agenda today to be planting day. I took a few days off of work, and I was so excited to get this done, but the forecast was calling for cloudy skies today and then rain like the next 4 days. And so I woke up this morning and I looked outside and it looked gosh darn cold. Like, it looked so cold outside. And so I took my time going out here this morning because I thought it was gonna be cold. I said a little prayer. I was like, you know, it's my day off. I'd enjoy some sunshine if you want to throw it my way. And here I am, knee deep in this all, and ask and you shall receive, right? It doesn't look super sunny out, but the sun is popping out every couple minutes and it is hot. So last year we planted peppers in this bed and they did absolutely stellar. Years prior to that, we have tried planting all kinds of stuff and nothing really thrived over here. This bed of the whole big garden gets probably the most shade because we've got a big tree, the chicken coop and stuff here. However, last year we just packed it full of peppers and it did stellar. All of our peppers did amazing here. So I'm sticking with that method this year, and this is going to be my pepper bed. Here I've got a pretty large tray full of a million different things, but my pepper section is right here. Tyler helped me label, and he was really the method behind the madness of the labeling, so I'm hoping that I can decipher all of this, but I'll walk you through what I'm planting in here. All right, so in this bed, I have enough space for 5 rows of 3. And so I think I planted accordingly. So I've got black pepper, Jimmy Nardello, banana, California Wanda, green pepper, and a grand bell pepper mix. And so that's what's gonna go in these beds here. So obviously I love shooting these videos because I get to share my garden with all of you all, but on the flip side as well, I get to document everything that I planted. So it makes it easier to remember later once it's all in the ground. All right, done. Doesn't look like much because they're very little. But here we've got a Javarsky peppers, a couple of them here, just 2. Back in this corner is a California Wander pepper, blot peppers, which we grew last year, so a whole row of them. Really enjoyed those. They're really pretty colors. They turn purple. Jimmy Nardello, 3 plants of those. Those are really good for I like to stuff them and grill them. Down here we've got our banana peppers. I love to pickle those. Those are stellar. We put them on sandwiches, pastas, salads. Delicious. You will see that there are some crushed up eggshells from last year that didn't quite break down, but those are okay too. And then last but not least is the grand bell pepper mix. Of course, we love our bell peppers. We eat those a lot, so I wanted to make sure I incorporated those this year. Next is our arch here, which I am planning on growing our Chinese red noodle beans on so that they're long and dangly and pretty. So the wedding is this year, and we're planning on having friends and family over around that time to kind of see the gardens. A lot of them haven't had a chance to see them in person, and so I am going for like a beautification kind of aspect this year. I want to make sure that I put in some of my favorite things that make things look really pretty so it's special for everyone. And this arch is one of the like kind of the main entrance to the garden, the first thing that you kind of walk through. So I want to have our Chinese red noodle beans. If you're not familiar, they grow to about a foot long and they're just really pretty. We have the purple version, so I think that they're gonna look gorgeous on this arch. Chinese red noodle beans on each side of the arch. I planted about 5 plants on each side. The sun is now out in full force. Yay! You get what you asked for, right? Oh, it's beautiful though. Alright, next bed is my favorite. This is my tomatoes. Now you're gonna see that I have something strange out here. Eggs. I have eggs with me. And the reason for this being is that I have heard from multiple sources, and I feel like it's getting even more popular, that if you crack an egg and put it into the hole of your tomato while you plant it, that it actually like makes your tomatoes be more fruitful and happier. Initially I'd heard that from Roots and Refuge, but I've seen it come up a ton more recently. And I've always done it as well, so here I am. I mean, we obviously have chickens, so we have more eggs than we could possibly need. So I'm going to use some eggs to plant my tomatoes. Now, one thing that I am doing differently this year is I had water glassed some eggs at, I don't know, probably about 6 months ago at this point. And now we're back into eggs, like we don't need these. So I figured I would actually try using some of my water glassed eggs for this experiment here with my tomatoes. So they're actually, if you're not familiar with water glassing eggs, it's a mix of food grade lime and water, and then you put your eggs in it and it'll store unwashed farm fresh eggs. From what I hear, up to a year. We've made it 6 months. I have eaten these and they're delicious and they work perfectly fine. But I just figured for this purpose, we might as well use these first. Also, I did a little homework. I understand that cooking lime and like gardening lime are 2 different things. Well, different purposes and essentially different things, but lime apparently isn't bad for tomatoes. It's good for them. So I figured I would use these first and see how it goes. All right, so I'm getting knee deep into these tomatoes. I have enough room in this bed to do 3 sets of 3. And that, I think, is my cutoff point. If I cram too much more in here, then it's just overly crowded and it's impossible to tend to. So I had grown 3 different types of large slicer tomatoes, as far as I'm concerned, as I know, that I wanted to put in this bed. The first one being my go-to tomato forever and all time, which is the Cherokee purple. It is my favorite tomato I've ever had in my entire life. If you're not familiar with purple tomatoes, they are the sweetest, most tomatoey tomato you've ever had. They're my absolute favorite. I cannot live without them, and I look forward to them every single day. Now, what we did was we actually on purpose planted 2 seeds in each cell, and the purpose for that was to ensure that there would be germination from these tomatoes because they were that important to us. Well, every single cell, both seeds produced. Some of them actually, one of them had 3 seeds in them, and we had 100% germination rate. So I've got more of these than I needed initially. Now the next one that I have here is called the Hillbilly Tomato, and this was actually a seed that I got from Jess from Roots and Refuge. She had sent us a few different varieties of seed packets and such that she either had multiples of or didn't want anymore. And so this Hillbilly Tomato I thought looked really interesting, and so I wanted to try it. It's like an orangey kind of color tone to it. Again, we did 2 seeds per slot. This one did end up germinating both seeds. The next one germinated 1 seed, and then the third one didn't germinate at all. So I still ended up with 3 of these, so that's fine. I can split these guys up gently, and I'll plant my 3 tomato plants here. Now, the last one was another one that I got from Jess, and it's called the Black Seaman Tomato. And they look really puny. like they germinated, but they just look really small, and I'm just not sure how they'll hold up out here. So to give you kind of a peek, I mean, they're these little tiny things back here. They're so small. Very, very small compared to all of my other tomatoes that look more like this. They're bitty. So sometimes when gardening, you just have to make executive decisions, and I'm making one. I'm not gonna waste those. Maybe we'll try putting those in pots, but because of this germination rate on my Cherokee purples, I just feel like it is a message. And so we're gonna plant double the amount of Cherokee purples, and then we'll plant the Hillbilly Tomato, and then that'll fill up this whole bed. Okay, so who's ready for the fun part? All right, so now what we're gonna do is we are going to plant our tomato. Now, I did have to separate him, so he's not gonna be happy for a while because I had to tear him away from his sibling. The first thing that we're gonna do is take off any of the bottom leaves. You can just pinch them off. The concept here with tomatoes is that you wanna plant really, really deep. So you wanna plant right up to like the top couple leaves. And with that this is all going to turn into a root system. So you can see the small fibers here on the stem of the tomato. If you plant those and those are in soil, they will actually turn into roots, just like this. Happy, healthy roots. So you can have a stronger root system. So I'm gonna dig a really deep hole here, and then we'll crack the egg. All right, so you can see I have a really deep hole here that'll be deep enough to plant my tomato right up to the top leaves. So we're gonna grab an egg. Again, this is one of my water bath ones. I'm just gonna crack it a little bit, get it going, and then kind of break up some of the shell here and just toss it in, nice and messy. Then we're going to put our tomato plant in real deep here, being very gentle, and pack the soil around it. Breaking up any large chunks so that it's easy for the root system to break through. And there you have it. I'll do this for the rest of them. Alrighty, so we got all the tomatoes planted. These two rows here are my Cherokee purple, so those are my absolute favorites. These ones over here are the Hillbilly tomatoes. I have not tried those yet, but I'm curious to give them a shot this year. Tomato bed full. Next, we're going to work on the second arch here, which those are going to be the Cherokee Trail of Tears beans. So the Cherokee Trail of Tears became one of my favorite beans about 2 years ago. The reason for that being is they're extremely prolific. I think I gave them like one side of an arch a couple years ago, and they just took over. It grew so many beans that we canned some, we froze some, we ate a ton fresh, and we still had some left over. So I wanted to make sure I put those in the garden this year to kind of fulfill our need for wanting to produce more food as far as pounds as weight goes this year. We wanted to make sure that we were growing stuff not only beautiful for our friends and family that are coming, but also something that is going to provide us with a ton of fresh food to eat from our garden, as well as the ability to can. So I did 5 of the Cherokee Trail of Tears along this side of the arch. We still have the second side of the arch to plant the Cherokee Trail of Tears, and then this is Tyler's bed. So I'm not going to touch this today. I'm going to let him do it. God forbid I do something wrong. That would be my biggest fear. Like, I don't want to mess it up. So, plus, I want him to be able to contribute to planting, and I don't know what his plan is for this bed. So I think we're going to end here for this one. There's going to end up being a part 2 because my phone is dying and I need a break. So that's it for today. We did pretty good. We got through the 2 bigger garden beds in the large garden. We still have the in-ground bed to go, and then we have our flower garden and the herb bed. So keep an eye out for that on part 2. I am ready for a break. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon.